Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles. It was supposed to be a regular evening. Another quiet night at home, just me, my thoughts, and the hum of the television playing in the background. I had just settled onto the couch with a cold beer when my phone buzzed. Her name flashed across the screen. My wife. I almost didn't pick up. Lately, our conversations had been distant, clipped. The warmth we once had was now an obligation rather than a comfort. But this? A call this late? That wasn't normal. I swiped the screen. Hey! I answered, trying to sound casual. A pause. Too long. The kind of pause that signals bad news before a single word is spoken. Then, her voice, flat and emotionless. I just wanted to call and let you know I'm filing for divorce. My fingers tightened around the phone. What? I've already hired an attorney. From now on, you'll communicate with him. His name is... Wait, what? Divorce? Out of nowhere? What the hell is going on, Lisa? Another pause. We're not doing this, she said finally, her tone sharper this time. I don't want to argue. I've made my decision. It's final. If you have anything to say it through my lawyer. And just like that, the call ended. I sat there, staring at the screen, her name still glowing as if mocking me. My pulse thudded in my ears. This wasn't just sudden, it was calculated. Lisa had always been a planner. A woman who never made a move without thinking 10 steps ahead. That's what sent a chill through me now. She wasn't just divorcing me. She was cutting me off. No conversation. No explanation. Just a lawyer's name and a door slammed shut in my face. Something was very, very wrong. The lawyer. The next morning, I did exactly what she wanted. I called the lawyer. The voice on the other end was smooth, professional. Yes, Mr. Carter. I'm representing your wife in this matter. We can schedule a meeting to discuss the proceedings. No emotion. No hesitation. Fine, I said. I'll come in this afternoon. And just like that, my life was suddenly a legal proceeding. A cold transaction. When I arrived at the law firm, I took in the lavish office. Expensive artwork. Leather chairs. A glass-walled conference room that screamed power. Lisa hadn't just hired a lawyer. She'd gone for the big guns. A woman at the front desk led me to an office. The moment I stepped inside, the man behind the desk stood to greet me. A slick, suited man in his 50s, silver hair perfectly styled. The kind of guy who thrived on control. Mr. Carter, he said, offering a firm handshake. Please have a seat. I sat. He folded his hands on the desk, studied me for a second. And then I said it. The moment that changed everything. I'm the husband. His face dropped. His entire body stiffened. The lawyer's fingers twitched as he reached for a folder. His professional mask was still intact. But something wasn't right. A cold dread curled in my gut. Because this wasn't a normal reaction. He knew something. And he was scared. I watched the lawyer's fingers twitch as he reached for a folder on his desk. His face remained composed, but there was something else beneath that controlled exterior. Something tight, something rattled. For a man who likely spent decades handling messy divorces, he was nervous. That alone told me everything I needed to know. I leaned forward, my voice calm, but my words deliberate. Is there a problem, mister? He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing before he forced a smile. Mr. Carter, I just wasn't expecting you to come in so soon. Liar. He was expecting someone. Just not me. He slid the folder across the desk. But his hands were shaking now. He tried to cover it by clasping them together. But I caught it. You're Lisa's attorney, I said slowly, my gaze locked on his. And yet, you look like you've just seen a ghost. The lawyer let out a forced chuckle, shaking his head. No, of course not. Just a long morning, that's all. Let's get started, shall we? He flipped open the folder and pulled out a single document. Your wife has filed for an uncontested divorce, he said, regaining a bit of his composure. She's prepared to make a clean break. No disputes over assets. No drawn-out court battles. He slid the paper toward me, tapping a perfectly manicured fingernail on the signature line at the bottom. All you have to do is sign, and this will be over quickly and painlessly. Painlessly? I took the paper but didn't look at it right away. Instead, I kept my focus on him. You don't even want to discuss the terms? I asked. As I said, everything is straightforward. Is that so? He nodded, but I saw it again, that flicker of unease. This wasn't just a divorce. This was a setup. Lisa had everything planned. The abrupt phone call. The demand that I only speak to her lawyer. The overly generous terms. She wasn't trying to fight me in court. She was trying to get rid of me quickly. And the man in front of me? He knew why. I finally looked down at the document, my eyes skimming the legal jargon. Everything seemed standard. Assets divided fairly, no alimony requests, no demands for property ownership. Except for one thing. The date. I narrowed my eyes. This was filed 3 weeks ago. The lawyer hesitated. Yes. 3 weeks ago. I repeated, my voice flat. So tell me, when exactly was my wife planning to tell me? Because from the way she made it sound, this was a spur-of-the-moment decision. The lawyer flinched. It was subtle, but I saw it. And now I knew for certain Lisa had been hiding something big. Something that made her need this divorce finalized fast. I leaned back in my chair, tapping the edge of the document against my palm. Tell me, Mr. Wallace, I said, finally reading the nameplate on his desk. Are you always this nervous around clients? Or is there something specific about me that's got you sweating? He bristled, his jaw tightening. I assure you, Mr. Carter, this is a routine proceeding. Routine, right? I slowly placed the document back on the desk, pushing it toward him. I'm going to need a little time before signing anything. The lawyer exhaled sharply, as if he'd been holding his breath. He nodded stiffly, closing the folder and pulling it back toward him. Of course, he said, though he sounded anything but happy about it. Take all the time you need. I stood up, buttoning my jacket. You seem like a smart guy, Mr. Wallace. And smart guys don't shake unless there's something making them very, very uncomfortable. He said nothing, but I saw it again, the brief flicker of fear in his eyes. I smiled. Have a good day, Mr. Wallace. And then I walked out of his office. Outside the law firm, I stepped into the fresh air, my heart still hammering in my chest. 3 weeks. Lisa had been planning this divorce for weeks, lining everything up, keeping me in the dark. That wasn't the behavior of a woman who simply fell out of love. That was the behavior of someone covering their tracks. And I was going to find out exactly what she was hiding. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Hey, Mark, I said when my best friend picked up. I need a favor. Mark didn't ask questions, not at first. That's what made him my best friend. He knew my tone well enough to understand when something was seriously off. You need a favor? He asked, his voice immediately shifting into serious mode. What's going on? I think Lisa's hiding something, I said, pacing outside the law firm. She filed for divorce 3 weeks ago, but she only told me yesterday. And her lawyer? The guy was shaking when I walked in. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I need to find out. Mark let out a low whistle. Damn, that's not just cold. That's strategic. Exactly. You thinking infidelity? He asked. I exhaled. It was the obvious answer, but it didn't sit right. If it was just an affair, why rush the divorce? I mused. Most cheaters try to milk things out. They play their game until they get caught. Lisa's acting like she needs me to disappear yesterday. Mark was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. All right, what do you need me to do? I checked my watch. Lisa's still at work. I need you to check her car. See if there's anything in there. Receipts, keys, notes. Anything that tells us what she's been up to. Mark chuckled. Breaking into your wife's car? You sure you want to go full detective mode on this? I don't have a choice, I said grimly. Something's wrong, Mark, and I need to know what. All right, he agreed. Send me her location. I'll handle it. I ended the call and took a deep breath. Now I had to handle my part, digging into Lisa's secrets. While Mark dealt with the car, I headed to Lisa's workplace, a corporate office downtown where she worked as a financial consultant. I wasn't going inside. I didn't need to. Instead, I took a seat at a cafe across the street and pulled out my laptop. Time to check the bank accounts. Lisa and I shared a joint account, but we also had separate ones for personal use. While I had always been open about mine, Lisa had always been private about hers. Too private. I logged in to our joint account and skimmed through the transactions. Normal. Predictable. Boring. Then I checked the credit card statement. And that's when I saw it. A hotel charge. 1 week ago. The Crimson Orchid Hotel. A 5-star luxury place. The kind of place you don't book a room in alone. My stomach twisted. I stared at the transaction, my mind racing. It was possible, just barely possible, that it was innocent. A work trip. A company event. But if that were the case, why hide it? Why was Lisa filing for divorce so suddenly, 3 weeks after she booked that hotel? What the hell was going on? My phone buzzed. Mark, you're gonna want to hear this, he said the second I picked up. I just went through Lisa's car. And, buddy, I found something that's gonna blow this whole thing wide open. What Mark found. 20 minutes later, I pulled up to a parking lot where Mark was waiting by his truck, arms crossed. He tossed something at me the second I stepped out. A small black key fob. What's this? I asked, turning it over in my palm. A storage unit key, he said. Found it in Lisa's glove compartment. I stared at him. Lisa doesn't have a storage unit. Mark smirked. She does now. My pulse pounded. A storage unit. A luxury hotel. A rushed divorce. A lawyer who was shaking in his chair. None of this was adding up. But I was about to get my answers. Mark clapped a hand on my shoulder. Come on. Let's go find out what your soon-to-be ex-wife has been hiding from you. Mark and I drove in silence. The weight of the storage unit key fob sitting in my pocket like a ticking time bomb. Lisa had never mentioned renting a storage unit. We had a house, plenty of space, plenty of storage. So what was she hiding that couldn't be kept at home? We pulled into the facility's parking lot. A sprawling complex of storage units surrounded by a chain-link fence topped with razor wire. High security. Private. Mark glanced at me. You sure you're ready for this? I nodded. I need to know. We walked inside, and I gave the receptionist the number stamped on the key fob. She barely looked at us before handing over a clipboard. Sign in, she said. Units in Building C, 3rd row. I signed with a steady hand, but my pulse was thundering. What the hell am I about to walk into? We found the unit easily enough. The door was padlocked, but the key fob had an electronic sensor that unlocked it instantly. The mechanism clicked, and I took a deep breath before yanking the metal door up. The second I saw what was inside, my blood ran cold. What Lisa was hiding. Inside the storage unit were boxes, neatly stacked, all labeled with names I didn't recognize. I stepped inside, my shoes echoing on the concrete floor. I pulled open the first box and froze. Stacks of cash, neatly bundled, organized, and a hell of a lot more than Lisa's salary could account for. I grabbed another box. Inside were files, financial records, printed spreadsheets, documents with signatures I didn't recognize. And then I saw it. A ledger. Mark leaned over my shoulder as I flipped it open. Jesus, he muttered. The pages were filled with transactions, some small, some massive, but all linked to offshore accounts. My heart slammed against my ribs. Lisa wasn't just cheating. She was laundering money. I turned another page and stopped cold. At the bottom of the list of transactions was a name I did recognize. Wallace and Associates. Lisa's lawyer. That's why the bastard was shaking. He wasn't just representing her in a divorce. He was in on it. The pieces fall into place. Mark let out a low whistle. Your wife's running a damn operation here. I could barely process it. Lisa's a financial consultant. She has access to high-end accounts, wealthy clients. And apparently, she's been skimming off the top. Mark finished. My hands tightened around the ledger. She's trying to ditch me before I find out. Not just ditch you, Mark said. Bury you. Think about it. She's been planning this for weeks. What if she's setting you up? The thought sent a cold wave of realization through me. The sudden divorce. The clean-cut terms. Lisa wasn't just leaving me. She was cutting me out before everything collapsed. If she got the divorce finalized first, any investigation that followed would lead straight to me. I stared at the stacks of money, the financial records, the undeniable proof of her crimes. Lisa had severely underestimated me. She thought I would sign the papers without asking questions. Thought I'd be too heartbroken to dig deeper. Too bad for her. I wasn't just walking away. I was going to turn this entire thing back on her. Setting the trap. I took pictures of everything. The cash, the documents, the ledgers. Then I turned to Mark. I need to play this smart, I said. If Lisa realizes I know, she'll cover her tracks. Move the money. Make me look like the guilty one. Mark nodded. So what's the play? I exhaled. I'm going to sign the divorce papers. Mark's head snapped up. What? I grinned. Lisa wants this divorce finalized fast because she's trying to disappear before everything catches up to her. So I'll let her think she won. Mark crossed his arms. And then what? I tapped the ledger. And then I make sure when the feds come knocking, she's the one holding the bag. I spent the next 24 hours setting the trap. I played it cool. No erratic behavior. No confrontations. No tipping Lisa off that I knew exactly what she was up to. I called her lawyer the next morning. Mr. Wallace, I said, my voice controlled, steady. I'm ready to sign the papers. A pause. Then, an exhale of relief on the other end of the line. That's excellent news, Mr. Carter. We can arrange a signing today if you're available. Oh, I was available. Lisa wanted out? I was going to give her everything she asked for. And in doing so, I was going to destroy her. The signing and the twist. Lisa and her lawyer sat across from me at the long mahogany table inside Wallace's office. She looked composed, dressed immaculately in a navy blue blazer and heels. A picture of calm confidence. But I saw it now. She wasn't calm. She was waiting for this to be over. I played my part well, keeping my expression neutral as Wallace slid the paperwork across the table. Lisa's gaze flickered to me as I picked up the pen. Maybe she was expecting me to hesitate, to lash out, to demand answers. I did none of those things. With a deliberate slowness, I signed the papers. Lisa let out a breath so soft I almost missed it. Relief. She thought she'd won. She had no idea what was coming. The FBI's surprise visit. As I stood to leave, I reached into my jacket pocket and placed a single manila envelope on the table. Lisa frowned. Wallace froze. One last thing, I said smoothly. You might want to open that. Lisa hesitated but reached for it. Wallace was already pale. He knew. The second Lisa flipped open the folder and saw the photographs, her entire body went rigid. What the hell is this? She whispered. Her lawyer didn't speak, because he knew exactly what I had handed them. Photos of the storage unit, the cash stacks, the offshore transactions ledger, the records tying Wallace's firm to Lisa's scheme. And then, the cherry on top, a CC'd copy of the entire file sent to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Lisa's face turned sheet white. Wallace stood so fast his chair toppled backward. You? Lisa's voice cracked, her hands trembling as she flipped through the damning pages. I leaned down, resting my hands on the table. You tried to cut me out before the feds caught on. But now you're the only name left on that paper trail. Lisa's mouth opened and closed, lost for words. And then, as if on cue, the front door of the office burst open. 2 men in dark suits walked in. Lisa Carter? One of them asked, flashing a badge. Lisa didn't move. The second agent turned to Wallace. Mr. Wallace, we have some questions about your firm's offshore account activities. Wallace sank into his chair, his face drained of all color. Lisa whipped toward me, eyes wild. You set me up, she hissed. I smiled. No, sweetheart. You set yourself up. I just made sure you got exactly what you deserved. The agents stepped forward. Lisa Carter, you're under arrest for financial fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The cuffs clicked around her wrists. Lisa started screaming. I buttoned my jacket, turned my back, and walked out the door. Dear listeners, Please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.